What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Explain It To Me. We're talking about WandaVision again. I'm sorry I still have all the chill music, Molly. Every time it comes up, I look down at your little webcam in the StreamYard to see if you're rolling your eyes or something.
I mean, I dig the music. It's just this is crazy times. We need some. This episode was insane, and we need some pump up music to be.
You're right.
To be quite honest.
I agree. You can choose all the music. I'm just going to leave that up to you from now on.
Okay.
We do have a guest coming, but he is rating or streaming right now. He's going to rate us in a second, so we're just going to tread water until he gets here. But what did everyone think of the episode? I mean, Molly already said it's crazy times. Ashton, what did you think?
I thought it was good. I mean, I feel like it kind of debunked some theories just because there were things that would have happened in this episode if they were going to happen. So that was cool. You know, it kind of did narrow what is going on and answered some questions, but raised some other questions.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, so don't worry.
Same.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we can probably rule Mephisto out of this.
Yeah, like he would have probably shown up. Like if they drop him in the last episode, even if it is like an hour and a half long episode, that's going to be kind of crazy.
It's a lot. Like, hey, by the way, here's Satan.
And I don't think it's going to be an hour and a half long epised. But even if it was, that would be crazy.
Yeah, it seems like Agnes is just kind of the big. Well, I don't want to say the big bad, but like
I've got some theories on this.
She's not being told what to do by anyone. I think it's just her.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But it also seems like she's not so much like orchestrating everything, so much as maybe just kind of like doing her own thing in tandem with Wanda's crazy, TV show land.
Yeah. This whole episode was so different from all the other ones, and man, it just like some of the best TV I've ever seen. Like
I was a little bit right. I did guess last week that it was going to jump back, and but I didn't think it was going to jump that far back.
And that it was going to be like a flashback that's actually happening like to the characters too, not just something the audience is seeing, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Like it was like an in-universe flashback, if that makes sense. Like Wanda was experiencing the flashback too, you know?
Yeah. Kind of going back through her trauma and not just, I kind of thought it would go through the show and just show Agatha pulling strings. But yeah, it went way farther back, which I thought was great.
My first thought after I finished the episode, other than like cleaning the tears off of my face, I was like, finally, she gets some therapy. Like Agnes was basically her therapist that whole episode, like trying to pull stuff out of her. Okay, like we can work through this. What happened?
And here comes the raid from our friend CubsFanHan. Thanks so much, buddy. And then he will be in the stream momentarily. Just waiting on that. But yeah, it was good to see Wanda actually kind of work through some of her trauma. And yeah, we got a bunch of answers on like, white sitcoms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were pretty much, I think, right about our theories about why it was sitcoms and TV.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I liked that they showed her watching like some of the exact shows that we kind of guessed.
Yeah.
Some of the episodes were based off of.
It was kind of weird.
I also feel like it's kind of one of those neat things about like, I mean, there's the whole like thing where it kind of stinks that there's like a monopoly, I guess, but at the same time, the fact that Disney owns all these different properties means that we can actually see things like the actual Dick Van Dyke Show appearing in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie or show. Like the fact that you can actually do that without it being some kind of crazy copyright issue is pretty cool.
I almost watched that episode of Dick Van Dyke. I was like, I wonder if there's anything hidden in there. And if it's on Hulu, which is owned by Disney.
Yeah. I honestly didn't remember that episode of like Malcolm in the Middle with Al getting violently crushed by a porch awning. Like,
I love Vision's like, oh, this is funny because of his injuries.
The grievous injury.
Oh, teaching a robot how to love and have feelings.
and laugh at someone being crushed to probably death.
I see Andy's trying to get in. Well, let's just while he figures it out, let's jump into the prologue with
so
Salem.
Juicy.
And
So juicy.
Oh, that was so good.
Juicy prologue.
When it came up, I was like, "Ooh, yeah!"
I just love.
I loved it.
How like every piece of what they're doing is just so perfectly executed. Like all the costumes and acting and everything was just all good. Like there wasn't anything that happened where I was like, oh, that looks kind of cheaply done, or like, oh, that effect could have been better. I honestly haven't noticed anything where I've felt that way.
I mean,
yeah, Star
Marvel.
Wars and Marvel have both been talking about how like they're treating all this stuff as if they are movies, and it's like, yeah, it shows.
Yeah, it really does. But I thought the prologue was super cool.
Yeah, I was hoping we would get to see. I may have brought it up in the last stream. I was hoping that we would get to see Agnes's past a little bit. Still don't really know how old she is, but I really dig her backstory, and I don't know if that has anything to do with her in the comics other than her being a witch or magic user.
If I remember right, in the comics, she's like super old, like from like.
Well, she's at least 300, but
I think she's more than that. Like I think that she was from like Atlantis or something in the comics. She's really old.
Yeah.
So she's like she's a witch and she's from Atlantis?
Yeah, there's just
Wait, before it sunk, or like Aquaman Atlantis, which I know is a different property, but
the Submariner Atlantis, Alex.
Sure.
Were you guys surprised? Well, not really super surprised, but when she's like being dragged along and put on the stake, like I was like, oh, they think she's a witch and this is just townspeople. But then like like her hands, I was like, wait, that looks like magic.
Yeah, I was like, so now the witches are burning a witch at the stake? What's going on?
I thought that was a fun, and I think it's all important. I do think that we saw this for a reason, where she was trying to, she has all this power, and she's not, according to her, she's not like trying to hurt anything, but she can't control it. She's saying stuff like, I can be good, and they're like, no, you can't. I think this is all going to come into her like relating to Wanda in the next episode. They're setting them up to fight. I don't think they're going to fight.
Comments pointed out, I was wrong about that. She's not from Atlantis, but she's old enough that she remembers when Atlantis was sunk into the ocean. So that's what that was about.
Okay.
So yeah, she's that old. She's just not from the actual Atlantis itself.
Was she sucking the life energy out of the witches, and like maybe that's what keeps her looking youthful? Like
that's what
she just
seemed like.
That's like what is it? The Disney one, Hocus Pocus. My mind is.
This is a Disney one.
Yeah,
not working today.
I wanted to. We kind of talked about this last week, but I have questions about the color of magic, where the witches that were fighting against her have blue magic. She has purple. Wanda has red, but also kind of yellow in this one. And it kept reminding me of when we see Thanos using the reality or the Infinity Stones. Whatever power he's using is reflected by like the stone and its color. So if he's punching someone really hard, it glows purple because he's using the Power Stone. And Wanda's powers are reality based, so it looks red. And Agatha seems to be all about power, so it's purple. And maybe the blue magic was powered by the Space Stone or something. So maybe they were just trying to teleport her away and not kill her. But it did look like they were trying to make her explode. So
but also it seems like
switches.
It also seems like all of the Infinity Stones, regardless of what their actual like natural power, like their full power, no matter what it is, they all seem to be able to shoot energy beams.
Right.
You know? And so if they were in fact just shooting energy beams at her, then they could still do that, you know? Because like even the Mind Stone did that when it was in like Loki's staff, you know?
That's true, yeah.
That they were always able to just shoot energy around with them. So
well, is there any precedent to that of the various Infinity Stones affecting magic different ways, or like powering people separately?
Not like, so the Infinity Stones are kind of just like a object that represents a force within the universe, and they're like basically a collection of that power into an actual stone. But like somebody could be manipulating reality energies, and it would be similar to like a much lower power level, but similar to seeing someone use the reality stone. But it's not really related to the reality stone, other than that they're using the same sort of power, you know.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't necessarily have to be from the reality stone, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
That's kind of a weird one. I guess maybe sort of like if somebody was given powers by an encounter with one of the Infinity Stones, then maybe it would be similar to that. But I actually was thinking sort of a similar thing and wrote down all the different, like looked back up all of the colors and things to see. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Was there anything to her mother and the crown that she had for a second?
She had basically like the Scarlet Witch shaped headpiece, like made out of magic, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like maybe that's setting up some kind of like, you know, importance for what the Scarlet Witch represents.
Maybe she was the Sapphire Witch.
Well, and they might be representatives of like order versus chaos, that sort of thing. How they were talking about how like the Scarlet Witch is all about chaos magic. Maybe they were representing more of some sort of like lawful order magic, which is also why they were punishing Agatha for breaking the rules. You know.
Quick Cubs fan update. He's rebooting. He's trying to figure out how to get in. So also, he's working on that still.
If the Infinity Stone colors end up actually being, you know, important as far as magical effects go, then it's also worth pointing out that the book from the last episode was glowing orange, which would be the Soul Stone, which would be really interesting because that's like typically the Soul Stone and its powers are used as like a portal to this pocket dimension that exists within the Soul Stone, which is where like Gamora and I guess Black Widow and some of those people are off in that universe or in that little pocket dimension. So that would be interesting to start seeing some of the Soul Stone stuff that was in the comics end up being part of the MCU.
Yeah. It was interesting, the things that she said while I guess they were trying to take her magic away or kill her, but
looked like she was in pain.
She was like saying that her power surpassed that of the others or something like that. But she was like, you know,
it was like beyond her age.
Yeah. But she was asked, she was like begging them to spare her life and like to help her figure out how to use it. I don't know if that was just her desperately trying anything to get them to stop.
Well, and maybe that's a foreshadowing of how her interaction with Wanda is actually going to go, because if, you know, she ends up sort of seeing herself in Wanda a little bit, being somebody who has more power than they know what to do with, you know, and just needing someone to teach them.
Well, I have to bring him in while he's still upside down. This is amazing.
I cannot tell you what the last 10 minutes have been like for me trying to figure this out. And I have no idea how to flip myself. What? Have you seen this before?
Please welcome Twitch partner, Twitch professional, CubsFanHan to the show.
The latency from Australia isn't as bad as I would have expected.
Yeah, I should put on the accent and then it would make sense, right? Yeah.
Well,
I literally have no idea how to flip this thing. Let me see. I'll just hold it like this. Now I'm upside down.
I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
I don't know if your mic is working or if you're using a different one.
You're not hearing me in here?
No.
Nope. But the video looks great.
Classic. This is great. This is great. Professional. Here we go. Oh yeah, the mic went to my Logitech mic. That's terrible. Let's see here.
Oh, you're drifting.
Also, your camera looks like it. Your camera might be falling.
More Wilson territory.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Clip it.
Yeah, definitely clip that. My audience is loving this. They're so happy.
There we go. Is that better, Mike?
That's great.
There we go.
Much better.
I don't know what the deal is. I've never seen any of these tech issues before, and I'm a professional. Yes, like I said, professional. So okay, from WandaVision, I'd love to join this discussion finally.
We're basically still on the prologue, so
Yeah.
you're all good. We kind of
good.
just finished talking about that. Do you have anything from the Salem scene that you wanted to talk about?
It was dark, and I love how dark it was. It was kind of satisfying. I think it's and that's something I've been wondering about WandaVision this whole time is how dark is this going to reach, right? And it seems like they're pretty comfortable making us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And before we move on, just because we ask all our guests this, what is your like fandom level in the MCU here? Like, did you read the comics growing up, or do you now, or do you just stick to the shows and the movies?
I would say I'm pretty average, where a lot of people are, maybe a little bit elevated. Like I'm really, really invested in the MCU. I actually just finished a rewatch of the entire MCU because of WandaVision. So I would say I'm a fan of the MCU first. Some comics that I was into, Spider-Man and a little bit of Captain America as a kid, but I wouldn't say enough to consider myself a super fan.
Cool. Okay, well, Ashton's going to do all the heavy lifting again today.
Well, and it's funny because, like, when it comes to Marvel Comics, a lot of people don't really remember, but before the MCU was a thing, like Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, those were kind of minor characters. Like the Avengers comics didn't really sell as much as like Spider-Man and X-Men and a lot of those properties. So,
yeah, the MCU has kind of put them on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's keep going in with, now that we're out of Salem, we go back to the present day. And we see, okay, they kind of show the rabbit a couple times again, and I'm crossing my fingers that Ashton's right about that being Ralph. Like I'm a full on believer now.
Well, it was talking to her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, maybe. I like to think that it really was.
That would work.
I still think it's a cat. I still don't
it's
think
actually
it's
a cat. That would be interesting.
And it ate that big bug, which cats love to do.
That is
Sure,
true.
rabbits
Rabbits
do
don't
too.
usually eat meat, I don't think. They're more, leafy greens and things.
Yeah.
Maybe the rabbit was a symbol of fertility for Wanda. Something like that.
Oh.
I don't know. 'Cause it seemed to me like Agnes, if you kind of pay attention to the whole show, she seemed very keen on Wanda having kids. And I almost feel like that's part of her evil plan, if we call it that. Although after this episode, I'm kind of questioning where she lies on that, because you kind of see her in that opening Salem scene. I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but kind of iterating like, I'm good. I'm good. It is. So does she just view herself as good? Kind of like a Thanos thing where he really thinks that he's saving the universe, but he's still a psycho killer. So I'm curious about that. What she maybe plans to do with those kids. I think that's significant.
That is definitely like the big question I have written at the end of our notes, or just for which we can jump around. But yeah, I get the feeling that this was all her trying to figure out where Wanda's power came from, because she just didn't understand it, was maybe jealous of it. But like in this first scene, she's talking to Wanda and like, you don't know what like these runes are. You don't know the basic fundamentals of magic. Yet you did all this. So what are you? Who are you?
I think maybe if Agatha was kind of nudging her about having kids, maybe she was just doing that to see if her power could make herself have kids, which she did. So Agatha was probably like, okay, dang.
Yeah,
was
just
like the
kind
whole
of a
time.
curiosity poking the bear. What trick can she do next?
Yeah.
Well, and it might have been kind of a test because she was trying to see if Wanda was the Scarlet Witch, and so this power of creation would be something that's indicative of that sort of level of ability, that she shouldn't really be able to do things like that otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to decide if Agatha is like trying to take Wanda's power, learn how she got it so she can become more powerful, or like, the end kind of suggests to me that she's like, oh no, I got to shut this down.
Yeah.
Like the Scarlet Witch is a villain.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, if that was her goal, why would she let Wanda leave the containment area where she couldn't do magic? You know, like, why wouldn't Agatha have just kept her there and just killed her while she was inside the runes where she couldn't do anything? You know,
That's a really good point.
I
If
was
she's
wondering that
trying-
exact same thing. Like, what's the whole point of that room if she just lets her get out right at the end?
right. So, I mean, she must want Wanda to do something with her magic still.
Yeah.
If she's trying to actually like control Wanda or make her do something at all.
Yeah.
Maybe she wants a friend. She wants to team up.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
could
that's
be.
yeah, like that's kind of what I was expecting to happen. Sort of that. Ashton, you said that Agatha teaches Wanda how to use her magic in the comics. So
Mhm.
I'm wondering if they're going to go that route eventually, or if it is just we're making her a villain. We're making her the villain of the show.
And like I was saying, you know, I feel like the prologue from this episode could be some foreshadowing to that, where like Agatha's begging the rest of that coven to just teach her how to control the power that she was accidentally, you know, accessing, that they were punishing her for using, and she's just wants to be taught what to do, and they won't, you know, they refuse. So maybe, you know, Agatha ends up seeing herself in the reversal of that now, where she has the opportunity to teach someone how to use power that's beyond their control.
I think that maybe right now she's feeling threatened, but maybe she needs to get Wanda out of the rune protection thing so that she can end the hex. Maybe that's what she wants her to do.
Yeah, could be. I don't get the impression that Agatha's super worried about Wanda ending the hex, though. She doesn't seem to really be that much of a, you know.
Well, she's also
humanitarian.
very, very invested in how she did it, right?
Right.
It
She
almost
really wants
makes
to
me
know
think
how.
it's more than just wanting to find out, is she the Scarlet Witch, which I think was when she said she has a theory. I think that's what her theory was that she was referring to. But beyond that, she wanted to know specifically how she did it. So I'm wondering if she wants to replicate this somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, that was kind of my assumption, was that that's why Agatha's there, is because like she sensed Wanda doing this crazy hex, and then she was like, oh, I need to find out how that person is doing that, because that's magic I don't understand, and I want to know how to do it so I can do it.
Yeah.
But now she's realizing, oh, Wanda did it because she's the Scarlet Witch. That's probably not something I can just learn how to do. So now the thing that we still don't know is she going to try to like steal that power somehow, or is she afraid of that power, or, you know, what's her reaction going to be at this point?
So is the Scarlet Witch like a mythical thing in the comics, or was that just Wanda's name?
As far as I can remember, it's just Wanda's name. I mean, she is like an important, powerful entity. Like, she's the nexus for Earth 616, which is like the Marvel Comics universe. She's like the linchpin of reality, and she can alter probability because of that. But as far as I remember, like, the name Scarlet Witch wasn't like a title that was passed down. Well, actually,
I thought it was.
I take it back. That was actually one, because her mother, her actual mother, was like the Scarlet Witch before her. But I don't remember it being that big of a deal, though. Like Agatha's kind of describing it as.
I just like that this whole time everybody's like, yeah, Wanda, Scarlet Witch, but they've never used that name. And so when we got the name drop in that episode, it was like, oh yay, they said the thing.
Finally.
It carried some weight too, I think, because they've been so patient with it. I mean, how long has it been since Age of Ultron when we first saw Wanda? And I think if you did enough research, or if you followed the comics enough, you probably could put two and two together. This is the story of the Scarlet Witch. But then this is, and something that I've always loved about the MCU is how patient they are with stuff like this to lead it down how many films, how many shows, to a point where now we can finally name drop it, and it kind of makes our knees weak, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because like whatever episode it was when the director guy was like, does she not have a special name? She's just Wanda.
Yeah, and they very firmly were like, no, she doesn't have any other name at all.
And she never will.
Not yet.
Yeah, not if I have anything to say about it.
Agatha also said that Pietro was a crystalline possession. Is that anything? Or is that just a fancy way of saying that, like, I possessed somebody to pretend to be Pietro?
Yeah, I think it's just that she, possessed some person to be Pietro.
Does
So
that
I
disappoint
guess
anyone else?
it kind of disappoints me because I really
Yeah.
thought that the fact that they cast Evan Peters, I was like, I thought for sure that there would be some importance to that because otherwise it's just like kind of
Me
weirdly
too.
confusing.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if we'll see him again because he was there at the end of that one episode.
I feel like we have to because we saw
we
him
will.
during the mid-credit scene of the previous episode, and there's no reason for them to continue like putting him in scenes like that at that point if they're not going to use him for something afterwards. So
yeah,
plus, we
by
still
the
need
end
to
of
see
the
what happens to Monica.
right. By the end of the episode, I was like, oh, we didn't see anyone else. Like,
Yeah.
like Wanda, or not Wanda, Monica was like, wasn't she sneaking around Agnes's house and she found like the basement doors?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And then like Pietro catches her snooping around, and then we didn't really see anything with her this episode. So,
Yeah, there's a lot to tie up in the last episode.
Yeah.
I still feel like Pietro's casting will be significant. I just don't know if it's as easy as we thought it was, if that makes sense. But the fact that they got, again, the actor's name is escaping me, from the X-Men universe, it's got to be some indicator of the multiverse. Maybe Agatha didn't realize what she was doing. I don't know. Maybe there's, because Wanda is the Nexus, maybe there's some kind of magical way that happened that makes, I don't know. It seems it has to mean something, I think.
I agree. I think that it does. I don't think the fact that maybe Agatha made him, I don't think that negates the idea. Like, maybe she looked into the multiverse and was like, I guess that's what Pietro looks like, and created that. I don't know. But I think it has to. I agree. I hope it means something.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. We get to the flashbacks. Agatha convinces her to like kind of go back through all of her trauma, which I didn't do this with everything, but I assume that a lot of the commercials that we saw are going to match up like the first one does. But we see like her 10-year-old TV night with the Dick Van Dyke Show, the bomb that matches the toaster.
Yeah.
So Agatha asks if she used magic to keep the bomb from going off. And I assume that's true. I think that's a revelation, but
yeah, that confused me because I was like, so is she just naturally a magic user?
Yeah, I mean, that seemed to be them like firmly indicating that they are actually changing what people seem to think was going on, where everybody assumed that, okay, Hydra gave Wanda and Pietro their powers in the MCU. But now they're kind of going back and saying, well, actually, Wanda and Pietro were kind of special to begin with, and then the Hydra experiments just kind of amplified them, or at the very least, just like activated them. And so, yeah, it looks like maybe what they're sort of inferring here is that Wanda had powers before, but maybe she was going to be just kind of like a magic user who just wasn't particularly powerful. But then because of what Hydra did, they made her even more powerful than she would have been.
I think Agatha even said in the 10-year-old flashback, she was like, okay, I see a young witch obsessed with sitcoms. And then a little later, she's like, okay, so your powers would have died on the vine, she said, if not for what Hydra did.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mind Stone unlocked and amplified her powers.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. No, stop. So what confused me was just the idea of Wanda having powers before all the Hydra stuff happened, because that was
the idea of magic in the Marvel universe is not confusing, but it feels like we've been told something else about Wanda up until now.
Well, and also, so far, all of the like magic users in the movies, like from Doctor Strange to this seen in the prologue, all of the magic users have been people who studied for like their whole lives up until that point to do relatively minor things in some cases, except for exceptional cases. And so here's Wanda as a kid who's just been watching sitcoms and growing up in like a pretty terrible environment. And there's a bomb in front of her and she's able to do something to it with magic. Like that's pretty extraordinary compared to the other magical characters in the MCU.
Okay, so Wanda is Ray.
No,
and,
I was going to say
that.
She's
and
Grogu.
Agatha is YouTube. Oh, yeah, or Grogu.
She's Grogu because she has powers, but just like they said about Grogu, like they would just go away if he weren't trained.
Yeah,
although Grogu did get training.
Yeah.
I think Wanda's like Ray and Agatha is like YouTube, just trying to. How do you know how to do all this? Explain yourself right now.
So maybe Agatha is like
show me your trauma.
She's like 50 times older than she looks like she is.
Right.
Kind of like that. It reminds me of what was it? Poe when he looks, or Finn when he looks at Poe, he's like, "How'd you learn how to do that?"
Yeah, hot wiring that. Thing.
That felt like a stab at the fans. Like, how'd you know how to do that? Anyway, not that we're going to talk about Star Wars.
Not everything's about Star Wars, guys.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Mind Stone scene because that was super cool.
Yes.
Is the stone like naturally attracted to her or something? Is that something in the comics, or because she just had her powers, she wasn't connected to the Infinity Stones in the comics, right? She was a mutant.
No.
I think you've gone over this a million times.
Yeah. So in the comics, she was originally supposed to be a like just this magic user who was a witch and had like powers. And then they revealed that she was a mutant. And then they figured out that her father was supposedly Magneto. And then like only very recently in the last several years, they revealed that, well, actually Magneto's not her father because she tried to cast a spell on her bloodline and it didn't affect him. And so then she was like, okay, so I'm not actually related to Magneto. And then they found out that she's not even really a mutant at all. And that it was just this guy named the High Evolutionary who does experiments on people in Wandavision, where she grew up, who experimented on her and Pietro and gave them powers.
Interesting.
Or awakened powers in them, maybe.
Okay.
So could be a very similar, circumstance to what the MCU is doing.
I thought the Mind Stone scene was really interesting and powerful for a lot of reasons. It seems like maybe Hydra didn't really accomplish much with her, but the Mind Stone did. And obviously you see in that scene, you see the comic costume, which was maybe one of the more chilling moments, I think, of the episode. It was really cool. But also a connection that I find really profound is that it was the Mind Stone specifically, which is intrinsically connected to Vision.
Right.
And so I found that kind of parallel there, especially with where her motives are for everything, which really kind of set her over the edge with Vision's death, which I think something a lot of people forget about because maybe partially because it's been a long time since we've seen Endgame and because it just feels like, there's all this time that's passed since Thanos came. When we pick up with WandaVision, for Wanda is very briefly after Vision died for her. And it's all very, very fresh. And so anyway, I think it's really, really interesting that happened to be the Mind Stone specifically. And then she has this connection with Vision. And it's just really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I also thought it was really cool because it turns out that like the person that like gave her powers or amplified her powers was her,
right.
Ultimately it was like her own, like, because it's the Mind Stone. It's like something within her was like showing her what she could become.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's just kind of a cool, like, empowering thing for the character where it's like, oh, nobody gave you this. You just realized that it was within you,
I'm sure you guys have seen like the cleaned up version of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that on Reddit.
People like Alex, did you not see that?
Nope. Keep talking. I'm looking it up.
So yeah, somewhere on Reddit, someone like messed with the contrast and the colors and everything. And you can see pretty detailed, like we're probably going to see her in that costume.
I really hope so. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I don't. I think that feels like a tease for what's gonna. We'll see it next week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I hope so because it looked pretty bomb.
Keep
That'd be
talking
a
because
good
I'm
place
still
for the
looking.
episode to end right there. It's on the Wandavision subreddit. If you go look
Okay.
there, it's one of the top posts, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like last week someone pitch shifted the guy behind the camera talking to her and figured out that was Agnes's voice. So
Yeah.
of course someone altered the image of the costume in this one to see it in more detail.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, I found it. That's dope.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
I just clicked on the WandaVision hashtag and was scrolling through all the people talking about spoilers, and that showed up on Twitter, and I was like, oh, I hope we get to see
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
That's very cool. So, do we think that I was like
Oh,
kind of hoping we'd?
Can you show people?
Yeah, I can. While I do that, I was kind of hoping we'd see something similar for Pietro. I keep hoping we're gonna
Yeah.
see Evan Peters pop up, but or Aaron Taylor Johnson Taylor, that other one.
The other
I
one.
was kind of hoping we'd see like his little origin story as well. But what powers did he unlock? Was he just like a very fast? Was he on the track team before?
Well, I mean,
or-
it's possible that maybe Wanda gave him those powers.
Mm.
Like maybe in the process of her unlocking her own powers, she also basically altered him to give him powers because she wanted him to
There she is.
be there with her,
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty clearly Elizabeth Olsen.
Oh, yeah.
Shut up, Reefton.
I mean, unless someone went to the trouble to like Photoshop her face and like all the details, that looks pretty legit.
Well, and with it being the Mind Stone, it just makes sense because it's
Yeah.
like,
Mhm. No, I really like that of her kind of knowing that she had potential
mhm.
Yeah.
and just like her showing herself. That's a really cool idea.
And they couldn't get it on camera. Shucks.
yeah, that's weird too. Kind of like the way that she edits the TV show of her life.
Mhm.
It's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, that was
Mhm.
interesting.
So
Yeah,
do you think
it's all coming together?
did the Hydra scientists, it kind of looked like they saw everything that happened, but then we're just like, nothing got recorded. That makes no sense.
Mhm.
Or do you think they just saw her standing and then like passed out a second
I don't
later?
know.
I mean, perhaps to them it just looked like an explosion, which I
Mhm.
think they might anticipate for somebody touching an Infinity Stone. But they
They're
also
like, "Oh,
might
there
not
goes
have
another
realized
one."
there was an Infinity Stone.
Yeah, they might not have really even seen her touch the Infinity Stone because in the
Yeah.
security footage, she's just standing on the walkway and then falls down.
Yeah.
So she was
right.
a volunteer?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah. because she and Pietro both volunteered for the program, which not everyone volunteered. A lot of the people like Hydra was abducting and then putting them through these trials, but she and Pietro like volunteered for this group because they wanted to change the world.
I loved
Yeah.
Agatha's line about that. She's like, so let me get this straight. You joined a terrorist organization in response to your parents dying.
I do. Agatha's been doing a lot of kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, we know,
Yeah.
audience. Like, oh, that accent really comes and goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We're acknowledging all this stuff, but that's it. We're moving on.
It's been so perfect, like
Mm.
as that character, and just like this sort of like flippant kind of attitude about everything is just so great.
She's perfect.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I feel like Elizabeth Olsen too. I mean, if we're still talking about the flashback scenes, the scene between Wanda and Vision was so emotionally powerful. And can we talk about Vision's line,
That's-
but what is grief, but if
Yeah.
not love persevering?
I wanted to get to this was my favorite scene of the episode, and I see a lot of people saying like, yeah, all that line from Vision was great.
Yeah. That was
Good.
probably the best line from the show.
Hmm
Like single line. Like that's just a great line in like writing history.
I mean, that's
like,
probably
that's fantastic.
that feels like a theme of the show, like almost
Yeah.
like maybe they wrote that down first, and then they were like, and now we're going to build a show around this idea.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's,
And I-
it's ironic that he would have a line like that and say something so profound after just showing us like how out of touch with some other things he is with humor. And
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny.
That's funny.
It's this android, who's having to learn what emotions and things like that are, and so it's like an observation from someone who's just now figuring it out for themselves and hasn't experienced it before, and so they're able to point out things that someone who experiences these feelings all the time doesn't necessarily realize. So it's like it is kind of ironic, but at the same time it's totally believable, which I think is great, And
at this point he's only been alive for a week, maybe.
True.
Yeah, because that was after Wanda went back to the Avengers compound, was right after Age of Ultron, so. But he was Jarvis before that, so.
That's true.
Yeah. We got to give Jarvis some credit.
But yeah,
He
it's
had some good lines.
jumping ahead a little bit, just kind of knowing that what she did with the hex. It's like we learned that she did do it all, and it wasn't we've been speculating, was it a deal with the devil? Was she manipulated? It's like, no, she did it, not on purpose, but it is this kind of weird twisted act of love.
I mean, I kind of like it now that I think about it, because
I do too.
It does kind of harken back to some of the cooler comic book moments for Scarlet Witch, where she just loses it and does stuff that's just reality warping. It's all her,
Yeah.
I like the theme on grief too. As I'm studying to be a therapist, and so it's a subject that I really like in general. Well, I don't like, but it's a subject that I think is important. It's probably a better way to say that. And in particular, I like that it's a show centered on mostly women protagonists, and they're not being victimized. They're not being. I think it's just this grief out of these differing situations, and I really like the way that they're presenting that subject in this form, if that makes sense.
So do you agree that for most of this episode, Agnes was basically her therapist, trying to get all that stuff out into the open?
She's a pretty douchey therapist.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that therapist to get in your face. So maybe
it's like your therapist was trying to write a biography about you just so that they could make money, and so they're just asking you to read the trauma so that they can write it down.
There was a line that we skipped over that I really liked, that Agatha says, the only way forward is back. And that it's like, you gotta confront all this stuff that you went through. You can't stop. You got to stop turning it into commercials. You got to face it for real.
But she was like, the only way forward is back. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen to your kids in my closet.
Right. I like the line, not Agatha's specific delivery of it.
Yeah.
I was super bummed that my theory about her parents being the ones in the commercials was wrong.
No, I don't think so. I think they still represent her parents, but we're seeing them acted out by people in Westview.
Yeah.
Could be.
But I wanted them to be the same actors.
I did have that. This is just me rationalizing my own, oh man, in my head. Because when you first see her father and mom, I was like, dang it, it's not the same people.
Yeah.
Isn't the reason we're in Westview pretty heartbreaking too?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
we're almost there. Let's talk about the S.W.O.R.D. headquarters.
My bad.
That's all right. That's all right. We're close to that point anyway.
Oh yeah, that's a good moment.
Yeah. So after the Avengers compound, best scene in the episode, we go to S.W.O.R.D. headquarters, where we get to see the full, not the footage, but what happened. She broke some glass, yes, but then she doesn't take Vision's body.
Yeah,
which I thought was
she
pretty
has
huge.
that just really sad moment where she says, "I can't feel you," and then she leaves.
Well, and it's like, okay, so she's not really clearly she's having some kind of mental breakdown, but she's not gone as crazy as we thought, sort of, in a way.
Yeah, well, Hayward definitely presents it as she comes in, she breaks in, she steals the body. It looks a lot more aggressive, even though she did slam those doors open and break that glass. It wasn't really like that.
Hayward kind of plants the seed of what ends up happening when he tells her, you could just bring him back.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like that's why she was there. You know, like S.W.O.R.D probably leaked her the fact that they had Vision's body in order to lure her there, and then try to basically trick her into magicking Vision back to life, since that's what they wanted him as like a weapon. But it's cool that she didn't fall. Like, she really didn't fall for their trap, though. She just left.
Yeah.
Which that Molly, the line where like I can't feel you reminded me of Infinity War, when she's like trying to kill Vision, and he's like, "It's okay, all I feel is you," and so I guess when she did
her
that,
was like a day ago or something,
right? Like a week or something.
Yeah.
When she did that,
if that, because she got snapped, right? And now she's coming back. It's probably not even a week. This is super fresh.
Yeah.
I wonder if she's wearing like the same clothes that she was wearing at the end of Endgame at Tony's funeral. Like if she just went straight to S.W.O.R.D headquarters right after that.
After a conversation with Hawkeye.
Or the funeral could have even been after this. Then again, well, no, I think she goes straight from S.W.O.R.D headquarters to play sitcom.
Well, she goes to the funeral for for Tony, and then after that she's like, he deserves a funeral. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, interesting. Like, no. Yeah, all the connections.
I loved the idea that the heart kept coming up in different episodes. The heart on the calendar, and they were like, "What is this for?" And then I think in one of the intros there was a heart, and we kept seeing random hearts, and it was from Vision's letter.
Well, so I'm curious if that was actually from Vision or if that was a trick, because conveniently the letter from Vision supposedly led Wanda to this place that's very magically important, apparently, where there's been generations of these magical rituals happening, according to Agnes, or I can't remember if she said generations or if it was just hundreds of magic spells cast in this place. Like,
I thought she said that she sensed Wanda doing that, because I don't think she lived there. The gist I got from that was that Wanda made the hex, and Agatha was like, "The hell's going on? I'm gonna go check that out."
Well, but Agatha had a line about how where her basement was and everything, that was like a very magically important spot, and the people had been doing magic there for a long time.
Oh,
I missed that line. That's interesting.
So is that Westview?
It is convenient that basement is there.
Yeah, is Westview?
At least I think she said something like that.
Is Westview basically the place that we saw at the very beginning? No, that's Salem. Never mind. Duh.
Yeah.
Or she could have used her spells and magic to create her little magic basement.
Maybe.
Or she could have teleported. She could have Doctor Strange just over to Salem.
Yeah.
We just didn't realize.
I need to watch that scene again to see what exactly Agatha had actually said. But yeah, I mean, there's just sort of part of me is like, maybe that because somebody put that letter in her car also,
I just assumed she had it.
Oh, really?
Oh, she's talking about the runes. I think this is right in the chat. She's talking about the runes being ancient magic. So those, I think that's what you're referring to, right, Ashton?
Maybe that's all it was.
Yeah, and I would assume those could be moved.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's all it was. But yeah, I don't know. I also kind of thought that the letter just showed up in her car with the way that she looked at it. But yeah, maybe that was just something that somebody had already given to her, and it was sitting in her car from before she went inside. I don't know.
I figured, because they mentioned the Vision's like last will and testament, so I figured that she got that at some point. I just assumed that she had it. Which I love that on the deed it literally says the Vision. Like,
Yeah,
I mean that is his name, but I'm like, it's.
I wonder if
it's weird on a legal document.
Like if that wasn't from Vision, I wonder if that was planted by Hayward. Like if he gave it to her, and like he knew that she would go there, and like possibly create the hex or do something.
I kind of doubt it. It seems like the whole hex thing is kind of like not what Hayward intended.
I was gonna say on the flip side of that though, they get there really fast. You know what I mean? Like, is it weird to you how quickly the director of S.W.O.R.D is just camped out outside the hex?
Also,
I guess he wants. I mean, he knows he wants Wanda's magic
Yeah.
for what
True.
happens in the post-credit scene. But so
Yeah.
he was probably like, they probably kept an eye on where she was going, and was like, oh, we better get over there.
Also, as far as loose ends go, we still don't know about the witness
That's a good
protection
point.
program person. You know, like, so as far as Wanda going to a special place, like, I mean, do we have any ideas who the witness protection program is?
Still
Yeah.
no.
Um,
I hope it's just like, it was Hank.
yeah,
And
I mean,
he's like, thank God you found me. And that's it. Like, it's
yeah,
not.
I mean, it could be that that's just a way for Jimmy Woo to get involved in the story in the first
Yeah.
place. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Now I'm like
So
scrubbing through the episode trying to find stuff.
what do I? I was gonna point out that Westview looked like not a great place to live.
It
And
looked
then
like kind of a dump.
yeah, but then I remembered this is 5 years after the snap. It's like
Oh,
5
yeah.
years and a week after the snap, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. They went through half an apocalypse, so
yeah,
cut them some slack.
Everything probably looked like that.
Yeah, it was probably once a lovely place to live.
yeah, that gazebo was getting 50% of the business that it was getting before.
Right.
And expect it to just stay open.
So we kind of touched on this already, but yeah, it seems like there was no deal with the devil. Wanda did this all on her own. It's still definitely a relatable thing. But I like this. I think it's too late to add in something like Mephisto.
Yeah, I think if it's going to turn out that Mephisto was involved, it's going to be a revelation later. You know, like Wanda's going to find out that she was feeding off of some kind of weird devil power or something later on, if that even ever becomes a thing. But I don't think it's going to happen during the show.
I feel isn't in the comics when I read about Mephisto, because I kept seeing him come up, he's got a lot of connections to Wanda in the comics, right? So even if he's not involved in this gig, it feels likely to me that eventually they'll visit that with Wanda.
Well, yeah, because in the comics, when Wanda first creates Billy and Tommy with magic, which she does that in the comics as well, but like you can't just magic people into existence that didn't exist at all before. So the way that she accomplishes it on accident is she accidentally magically grabs onto these two shards of Mephisto's soul, because Mephisto's soul had been shattered in a fight with Franklin Richards. And
crap.
they're floating around, and then Wanda accidentally like latched onto those and then created people out of them without realizing what she was doing.
Don't you hate it when you accidentally create devil children?
Yeah,
Worst.
like the run demon children thing that Pietro said in one of the previous episodes was probably a nod to that.
So in theory, could Mephisto not be involved in any way other than just the kids still?
Could be.
Is that still on the table potentially?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that could be a thing that they don't reveal it during the show because it's not important. But then whenever they do return to use, you know, Billy and Tommy as characters, they might explore that at that point.
Could be a post-season, like at the last episode post-credit scene kind of teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
There's
going to
also-
say he could be in one of the other shows, or he could be in Doctor Strange.
The next
Yeah.
big bad, maybe.
I think Doctor Strange is supposed to be like a horror anyway, so that makes sense. And we were also talked about, or we haven't really talked about the book in the basement. And Caleb said that some people have been saying that the book is supposedly missing from the library in Doctor Strange.
Oh, that is interesting.
That could be the same book that that Mads Mikkelsen steals? Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of looks like one of those books. So yeah, it could be.
I'm looking at the property deed, and it's probably nothing, but I'm trying to read the grantor's name and
like
signature.
Something. I don't think it was anything that was. I didn't recognize the name when I read it anyway.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her literally creating Vision. And
Yeah.
it looked like, so her magic went from like red to yellow. So when she killed Vision in Infinity War, did she like absorb some of Vision into her, or maybe all of Vision, or the power of the Mind Stone, or something like that?
I think she can use some of the power of the Mind Stone, yes, but she probably didn't realize that she could. And
I mean, it could also be that, you know, the Infinity Stones can't really be destroyed so much as dispersed. And so, like, when Thanos destroyed the stones with the stones, what he really was doing was, like, bursting them and releasing their energy throughout the universe. And so, like, the Mind Stones energy is still all out there, which means that maybe, like, Vision's mind is still just out there. It's just all scattered. And so she's basically, like, putting it back together from the ether. Well, not the ether. That's the other stone.
Don't talk about Thor Dark World, please. We're talking about good MCU. No,
I like Dark World. I stand behind it.
It's actually not terrible. When I rewatched it, it wasn't as bad as I remember it being. But I think I was just interested in the backstory.
It is one of the weaker MCU movies, though, I feel like.
Yeah.
Someone else on, I think it was Twitter, Reddit, pointed out that when she was creating the house, we saw all the like bits and pieces kind of moving together. The pattern that it was doing it in was the same as the cover of the House of M. It's like Scarlet Witch's face, but part of it is like all in pieces.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that sort of stuff in the show. I really like how much they clearly did their homework and have been, and they have people that really are passionate about the comics that are involved in the creation of the show.
Yeah. And like a while ago when Hector was saying that he didn't want Wanda to be the villain and all this, I'm really happy with how they're handling it, because it's like, yeah, they're using bits and pieces of what happened, like the House of M, and like her creating this perfect world because she was such a broken woman. But they're really digging deep into the emotions, grief, and like everything like that. So I
really love the fact that she literally creates Vision from within herself, that it's kind of like one of those, it's a new way to say like, oh, Vision will never die. He lives on right here, Wanda. He's always with you.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that's a good new way to say that.
Well, so that brings up a question. Up until this point, I guess, can we talk about the epilogue now? So,
well, should we talk about just like the quick little?
Oh yeah, sure.
Agatha sitting in like the little studio audience, and then she goes outside and she's got Billy and Tommy captive.
Oh yeah, first of all, her outfit was amazing. It was kind of a play on her stuff from the comics, because she had the brooch and it was purple. But she looked amazing. Yeah,
like the like flowing sort of like cloth and everything. That was a super cool looking costume.
Yeah, and then she's like talking about this idea of her being a myth, and she obviously knows like what Scarlet Witch is. But
also, the sheer disdain with which she said breakfast for dinner is great.
I do like that she just is angry that, oh, you have all this power and you're just wasting it on like parlor tricks and this stupid stuff. Or in her mind, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, again, another indication to me. I really feel like Agnes has some big master plan or something big she wants to accomplish.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, and it's possible that we just don't know yet. Either that, or maybe Agnes doesn't know. Like, maybe at this point, like, her plan was to figure out what was going on here so she could learn how to do stuff like this herself. And now she's like, well, actually I can't, because it's the Scarlet Witch. That's why this person is able to do this stuff. Yeah. So maybe she's like scrapping her own plan at this point and going to do something else. But
I think it has to turn around, and they're enemies right now, but I do think they'll wind up allies in the end, just because the substance of the prologue, like you said, Ashton, it feels like too much foreshadowing. She's like, I can be good. I want to be good. And then her mother's saying, no, you can't. And then if Wanda's saying kind of the same thing, like, I want to be good. And she's like, okay, I'll help you.
Well, and also at this point, we've got the clear, like, completely unsympathetic villain of S.W.O.R.D. at play. And so, maybe Agnes ends up helping Wanda deal with the,
But we can get into Negavision now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling him anyway.
the, second vision. If she ends up actually helping Wanda deal with that, that would make her a much more sympathetic character to Wanda and to the audience.
So I understand the White Vision is something from the comics. I know nothing about it. Are you familiar with that, Ashton?
Sort of. I'm not. I never was super into the Vision character in the comics as much, but from what I understand, that was a form that Vision took when he, like something happened to him, and I don't know if he was still even made out of like the vibranium or whatever, or adamantium or whatever it is he's made out of in the comics. Like I said, not as familiar with that character, but yeah, that's definitely a form that Vision took for a while, where he looked more like a phantom or something, like a ghost.
Was he good? Was he bad? Do you know?
I seem to remember that he was a good guy at that point.
Even then, okay.
Because
I'm definitely getting bad
I had a video
vibes.
game on the Sega Genesis where he looked like that, and it was one of the characters you could play as.
Oh, cool. I'm getting bad guy vibes from Vision.
Oh yeah, right now
for sure.
On the show, like I think he's gonna come in and he's gonna F stuff up.
So the thing that's interesting is up until this point we've been pretty much in consensus that we don't feel like Vision would survive this show. Does this change things?
Maybe.
It's fine.
Because I've seen people discussing the idea. It's like, okay, well, we have Vision's body, and we also have Vision's soul stuck in the hex. So what if they phase into each other and become a complete Vision again?
Yeah, and maybe Agnes is involved in that. Like maybe she helps Wanda basically take her amalgamation of Vision's mind that she's put into the hex and actually like plant it into the soulless husk that S.W.O.R.D is throwing at them.
Uh-huh.
Here's an interesting comment that the White Vision lost his human emotions and personality and became emotionless logic based on android, and subsequently was drained of his color and turned white.
I'm reading a little bit about what happened in the comics. It's Hank Pym who rebuilds him, but then when he's rebuilt, he comes back colorless, emotionless, just because how ripped apart he was.
Yeah, and then I would think there was a thing where Wonder Man ended up dying, and so they took his like soul and planted it into Vision, and then he got his like humanity back, basically.
Yeah, that's they got brain patterns from him. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Interesting. I could see them doing two things with it. Part of me feels like it would be so satisfying to see Wanda get Vision back. And I think that probably my biggest fear for Wanda is having to basically let go of Vision a third time, which would be...
That's definitely what we've been thinking would happen.
That might be kind of the conclusion of her actually finally dealing with her grief and being willing to let go,
Yeah, but I feel like in this case, it almost would need to be a moment where she accepts that she can let go of him eventually, and then she makes that decision to let him go. But if she can find a way to, obviously take advantage of S.W.O.R.D's new vision, maybe that's how it happens. I haven't thought about that.
But at the same time, she's now got these two kids. And so while she might get to the point where she's willing to let go of Vision, do we think that she's going to be willing to be like, okay, yeah, these kids were made up. Bye-bye. Like, I really don't think.
Well, are they made up?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions around the kids still. I've been saving that someone sent in a Streamlabs. Thanks so much, Thanos Sissy. And I've seen people talking about this. With Vision having part of Ultron's consciousness in him, could Hayward's experimentation with Vision's body somehow bring Ultron back into the fray? Could that be Ultron in the White Vision?
I mean, in the comics, Ultron is like notoriously good at coming back from like he's like the hardest villain to just get rid of because he makes all these copies of himself, and there's always like a version of his brain on some random like computer in somebody's basement off somewhere, and it survives through that. You know, when they think they wiped it out.
Everyone's got him on a hard drive.
That comment made me laugh too.
Yeah, he's on like a flash drive in somebody's pocket somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
and then they plug him into the internet, and suddenly Ultron's back.
Well, people have been talking about like the commercials and how they all represent her past trauma, and it's like they kept expecting some reference to Ultron pop up, and that hasn't happened yet. And they've been talking about like this big cameo that'll happen, and it would be interesting if it was just like James Spader's voice.
Well, so
if James Spader came back, I would lose it.
Yeah, that would be really cool. But there's
so
also
good.
a lot of talk now that maybe what he was talking about was actually acting against himself as like a joke, because it's someone who he's worked with his whole life, you know. Which would be
that's also funny.
Well played if that ends up being the case, but also kind of disappointing.
I think
it's something more.
In Age with my MCU rewatch, one of my biggest takeaways from Age of Ultron was I don't think we ever got enough of Ultron, and so I would kind of like that because he's such a compelling villain and is created over and done in one film. And so if he did find a way to muscle his way back, I think it'd be really exciting. Got a really compelling villain to deal with.
Also, I really hope that the MCU lasts long enough for us to eventually get a villain team up movie. You know, where we actually have some of the like more like successful villains actually coming back and teaming up together. Because I
think it'll last long enough, Ashton. It doesn't seem to be losing any steam, at least after 10 years.
I think the difficulty with that would be actually getting people to return to their MCU roles after that much time, you know.
Oh, the multiverse can save that.
Yeah, true. He constantly look different in the comics, even.
I will say I like the idea of Ultron coming back for the point that we'd need Photon and Wanda. Like that's a good villain for these heroes that are in the Hex to face. Like they have to team up and take this person down.
Yeah.
And we've seen the Avengers struggle with it. Now there's only like 2 or 3 if you count Agnes, or 5 if you count Billy and Tommy.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that they're expanding the stable of characters that are like just straight up magic.
Yeah.
You know, like because you've got Wanda and Agnes and Doctor Strange, and now Billy as Wiccan. So yeah.
And Jimmy Woo.
Yeah. Jimmy Woo for Sorcerer Supreme, I say.
I saw a funny meme this time, because Agnes told Wanda, "You think you're the only one who did magic in this town?" And then the meme cut to Woo doing his magic trick. He's like, "No."
I just had a thought. So I think we're gonna see Wanda kill this white vision person and bury him.
Maybe
take $300 billion worth of vibranium. Is that what they said?
He only said 3 billion.
3 billion. Yeah, 300 is a lot.
She's gonna use her powers to bury him like super deep into the earth.
Like Ray. Wanda is Ray.
Yeah.
I will say I missed characters like Jimmy and Darcy and some of the ones and Monica. We didn't get to spend any time with them this week.
I'm sure that they're going to be pretty central characters in the next episode.
I love the idea that he does some magic in front of Agatha, and she's like, "How'd you do that? How did you learn this?"
Yeah.
What runes are you using?
And starts taking him through all his trauma.
Yeah. Let's relive your past. And then it's literally just one scene of him watching Scott Lang do a magic.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I have some questions, and they are like about the kids and stuff, but there's one thing we haven't talked about: chaos magic yet. Is that a thing? What is it?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, like Wanda's powers, like her when she was considered a mutant, her mutant ability, and so I guess it's just her like natural affinity when it comes to doing magic is using chaos and probability and warping probability, which is
oh yeah, and they called it a probability hex earlier, or Agatha did.
Yeah, and her powers were always called like hex powers traditionally in the comics too, and so her original power was just like manipulating probability. And so it was like, oh, what's the probability that the, atoms around here are going to coalesce into a brick wall? It's like super low probability, but Wanda just makes it happen because technically she's just adjusting the statistics basically.
Okay.
So like that's how her powers work in the, naturally. Then she ends up learning from Agatha how to just straight up do like magic spells and things. And so then that augments what she can do. But her like most basic power is altering probability. And that's also something that's common amongst all of the Nexus entities from multiverse universe to different, like all the different universes. The Nexus people within each universe always have the ability to manipulate probability somehow. Although they're frequently doing it in different ways. So,
okay.
Like Wanda's is through this like hex thing, but like some of the other ones are like people that use necromancy or that have, some like all sorts of different powers that they have that are their specialty, but they all end up relating to probability manipulation.
I feel like a lot of what you're talking about right there is what we have to look forward to. Like I think they're setting up a lot of this kind of thing right here.
Yeah.
Especially
kind of forefront of the MCU.
Yeah, especially with the Doctor Strange movie and Wanda being a part of that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, is that confirmed? Do we know that?
I thought
You know
so.
that she's in it, yeah.
That's sweet. I didn't know that.
She's one of like I think we only really know like 2 or 3 characters that are going to be in that, and it's like Doctor Strange and her, and maybe like one other person that's slipping my mind.
Awesome.
So the kids, are they her own creation? Are they something else? Yeah, will they survive the show? I think they will, but
I think they're real, and I think they're going to be significant.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she did create them with magic.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
I just read something cool. Sorry about chaos magic. It's so according to the fandom page, they say it's mastery of spells capable of warping, manipulating, and or reconstructing reality and the very fabric of existence, and can cause total chaos and destruction to the cosmos. And they go so far as to compare it to Ethan Rayne and Buffy when he does the Halloween episode.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Nice.
I love that.
Save it for the Buffy episode, Molly.
Okay.
Explain it to me.
But apparently in the comics, she can control chaos magic because of her birthplace, where the god of chaos and controller of chaos magic, Chthon,
Phone, yeah.
that's where he was sealed.
Huh.
Yeah.
Andy, that's my reaction to so many things on the show. Just,
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah.
A lot of the Mortal Kombat episode was that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like right on, yeah. Okay, so yeah, we think they are her real magical children.
Yeah, well, and
Was she manipulated into doing it, or was it just like it was on that For the Children episode that she was like, maybe we should have a family? So did someone manipulate her into doing that, or was that just
I feel
her
like
own
Agatha
thought?
did. I think Agatha wanted her to have kids.
yeah, either because she has some nefarious plot that involves them, or just so that she has a like bargaining chip, basically. So that she had something
That's
to hold
interesting.
hostage.
Yeah, that's
You
not
know,
a bad idea.
Because
Is she-
clearly she's outgunned by Wanda when it comes to like just raw power. So she needs something to leverage to, when they do end up having a confrontation, which is exactly what she does as soon as she has this
Right.
face with Wanda.
Yeah. She
Because
says,
go ahead.
she says, you have no idea how dangerous you are. And then before she starts talking about her being a myth, she says, a being capable of spontaneous creation. So that makes me think that it was her that kind of nudged her into the idea of having kids to see if she could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, it seems like Agatha's constantly been like testing her to see what exactly she's capable of. So, I mean, yeah, that is probably part of it as well. But then, yeah, I mean, now that we know that Pietro was basically like, her puppet, we have to think about like, okay, so all the things that Pietro was asking Wanda about and trying to get out of her. That was all just basically Agatha probing her for information.
Yeah, and Agatha even said, like, I was trying so hard to do this nicely, but like you were pushing back, so now we have to literally walk through your past. But yeah, that's an interesting idea that she would make her make the kids just to have a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that. Like, I do kind of want to be on Agatha's side, and then I remember, like, she killed a dog. Like,
Kill the dog.
Yeah, but she also may have just like made the dog.
That's true. It might have not been a real dog.
Yeah.
But it was real to them, so it's still savage.
It was real to me.
Yeah.
What was the dog's name?
Sparky.
Sparky.
That part of that song where she says, "Oh, and I killed Sparky too," was both sad and hilarious at the same time. I felt bad for laughing as hard as I did.
What's
that
the
does to
name?
me. Mr. Scratches?
Yeah, that's what she called him.
Mr. Scratch
Senior
or something.
Scratchy. Yeah.
Senior. That's it. Yeah.
Senior Scratches.
Senior.
Yeah.
So I this whole show have wanted to be on Agnes/Agatha's side, but then they stick that line in the song, and I don't know, they could have not called out the fact that she killed a dog. They could have just left that out if they wanted her to be maybe good. And that does seem like they're saying, no, she's straight up evil.
Well, either that or just she's amoral. You know, like she just doesn't like have any.
Yeah.
You know, like she might not be evil, but she might also just not really have any like ethical consideration when she's trying to achieve her goals. But her goals might be just kind of like surviving or maybe even helping people sometimes. But she's not letting, you know.
Okay, well, it's hard to root for a dog killer.
It is. Yeah. I think that maybe that was also just thrown in as like a "and your little dog too" sort of reference of her being selfish, you know?
Yeah.
Here's a question for Ashton. Someone on Twitter was saying that the MCU's forms of magic, purple equals dark dimension magic.
Oh, that makes sense too. Yeah, that's
Orange.
in Doctor Strange.
Okay. Orange is sorcerer magic, red is chaos magic, blue is witch magic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Marvel likes to color coordinate things, right?
Yeah, we have a whole magic color wheel now.
Yeah, that's nice.
I was trying to think if we had ever seen anybody doing like blue magic stuff before, but I couldn't remember.
Loki?
I mean, we haven't really seen witches.
Does Loki or his mother count?
Does Loki use blue?
I can't. I mean, when he's using the Tesseract, which is the blue stone, but
the blue stone is the space stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Space witches.
Space witches.
Well, we're at the end of my notes. Is there anything anyone else wanted to talk about?
I think we covered everything. Oh, well, I was going to ask, so we kept bringing up the idea of mutants. Do you guys still think that that's a possibility to come up?
I mean, like, technically, Wanda and Pietro still could be, kind of. They were born, or at least Wanda was born magical.
I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I feel like they are building towards a big mutant reveal where they're bringing in the mutants. And I thought up until this episode, actually, that Pietro was going to be the door to that and that they would do it through a multiverse. But now I'm not sure. But I mean, obviously Disney's got the rights for X-Men now, right? Through their acquisition of Fox. And so I think it's only a matter of time before they start sprinkling them in.
Agreed. Yeah. It does seem like it's too early for this series just because that deal went through so soon. But then, yeah, they had Pietro, so.
Yeah.
Still no astrophysicist also.
I know. Next week. It's got to happen next week.
If it's gonna be someone important, we'll see it in the finale.
We got another donation from Drew. Thanks so much. Do you think there's any chance we could see Immortus? Could tie in nicely to Kang, the Fantastic Four, the Young Avengers, the White Vision, and the multiverse. Okay, I need Immortus explained to me. And Kang. I know Kang the Conqueror. I know that name, but I don't know who they are.
I don't really remember Immortus that much. I remember that he's a big villain, but he hasn't really done a whole lot in the comics that I've read mostly.
I'm gonna look up a picture.
That'll tell us all we need
Immortus
to know.
is Kang the Conqueror from the future. Okay.
Oh,
Like Kang the Conqueror is like this crazy character because
that is quite the hat.
Yeah. He's like a time traveler, and so we see all these different Kang the Conquerors show up all the time, and they're like from different. Yeah, and Kang the Conqueror is a Nexus being also, and he's like Nathaniel Richards, so he's related to Reed Richards, but
Okay.
I think he's like an ancestor of Reed Richards, who like travels around in time doing crazy stuff. His universe that he's from is one where they didn't have the Dark Ages. This is an old comic book story, and so they did some goofy historical stuff, and they were like, oh, here's this thing where they didn't have the Dark Ages in Europe, and because of that, it's like super advanced. And
since you brought up ancestry, could Wanda's powers come from some deep ancestry thing? Could it just be like her family was one of those witches?
I mean, maybe, but I kind of doubt it just because those witches were all using like blue magic, and Wanda's stuff all seems to be like red chaos magic. And those blue magic witches seem to be all about order and rules and stuff too, which, if anything, they're diametrically opposed to chaos magic, probably, especially because of the like color contrast.
See, did it again.
It's just interesting that like it's interesting. I guess could the chaos magic that she has, could that have come from the Mind Stone?
I mean, I think it was just awakened from the Mind Stone.
Just awakened. Okay.
I mean, she was like doing magic on the bomb basically and keeping it from blowing up for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Without realizing it. And again, that's like the probability manipulation. You know, like as far as the kids were concerned, oh, maybe the bomb's just not going to blow up. There's a chance that it just won't blow up. And then she basically made that be the reality of it.
That's cool.
That's an interesting theory.
That's kind of what we talked about when she was creating Vision. And then like Vision still lives in her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see in the next episode what's going on with like the characters that didn't show up in this episode, like, you know, Jimmy and Darcy, the Hex version of Vision, and like Monica and Pietro. Like those are all characters that are part of the show that just weren't in this episode at all. So there's a lot of stuff for them to do in the next episode. I kind of hope that it's like a longer than normal episode. So
I think it will be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's an hour.
Baby.
Yeah.
Not credits an hour, but like before the
an
credits.
Hour and 7 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
It's going to be like 30 minutes, then the credits start, and then there's just a bunch of mid-credit scenes.
I want like a surprise, just 2 hour, like 2 episodes in
That'd
one.
be nuts.
Please.
There's a lot to unfold and explain.
I agree.
I think we're gonna have a big character show up next week.
Well, because I mean, like
we should take final bets.
They said we can't wait for you to see who the astrophysicist or the aerospace guy is. So
did they? Okay, so confirm then. Something big.
That's what Monica's actor said, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Her actress. She said that she can't wait for the reveal of who the aerospace person is. So.
Oh, interesting.
So do we think that's the big cameo, or do we think there's a big cameo and the astrophysicist or aerospace engineer is
it's like a comic
someone else
character?
I feel like that's going to be it. I think that's going to be the big cameo.
Maybe.
I see a lot of people saying Doctor Strange. I was thinking that too, but what's he gonna do?
magic stuff. He's the Sorcerer Supreme.
He does
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
But
He
like,
does the wavy
It
hand
does
thing.
seem like
Yeah,
there's an
he's
awful lot of
doing the
magic
sling ring thing.
Sorcerer Supreme to be not there, you know.
Yeah.
it would be cool.
And
if
it's
he
only New
showed up.
Jersey. It's not far, and he can sling ring everywhere. He should have shown up earlier.
It would be cool if he showed up. And yes, he is a magic user, so it would make sense. But I can't see how he would help unless he gets rid of Agatha or like banish her.
Maybe he shows up and then goes through the wall of the hex, and then becomes like an investigator. Becomes like a
Ooh,
detective of some
private
sort.
eye.
Got, like the little hat.
Yeah.
I feel like going along the Doctor Strange line, this wouldn't pack as much of a big fandom punch, I don't think, but I think Mordo would be interesting, especially because of the post-credit scene from Doctor Strange, where Mordo basically says, "I'm going to destroy all magic."
Yeah,
That's one of his motives right now.
I feel like
and
he'd get his
so-
ass kicked, but
I don't think he could keep up with Scarlet Witch, but
that would be
he's somebody
funny.
who would have motive to just destroy stuff over there.
He's like, "There's too many witches," and he
Yeah.
just gets obliterated.
I'm
There's
gonna
too
go
many
ahead
damn
and-
witches in
I'm
this
gonna go
damn
ahead-
show.
I can make a prediction about who it's not going to be, which is that it's 100% not going to be that the aerospace engineer is MODOK and is just a giant floating head, because that's the character in the comics that is ridiculous. I can't imagine how they would ever include that in the MCU. But if
I
they
want nothing more now, just to see your reaction.
do, he's just a giant floating head with arms and legs sticking out of him, and he's like in a flying chair.
Alex,
Orange Julius wants him.
this might be a good time to rewatch Doctor Strange because there's so much I don't remember from that movie.
I
It's pretty
highly advise rewatching the full MCU and go. I binged it like a show over the last week, and I got through every movie in like a week.
Whoa.
And there were a lot of revelations that I couldn't believe how many connections in movies I didn't think would have connections to WandaVision there were. This show is reaching into the whole fabric of the MCU. It's really good.
I did that last year for a Schmodown.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident in my memory there, but
You want to do it again? And this time I'll watch all of them.
I gotta watch DC movies, Molly.
Oh no.
We should. This might be our longest episode so far. We should probably wrap it up. So, Andy, thanks so much for joining us. Where can everyone find you online and follow you?
Well, you can just follow me on. Just look CubsFanHan. I'm on YouTube and Twitch. Just /CubsFanHan. You guys find me there. Mostly doing Star Wars stuff, but I love talking Marvel. Usually, I love coming here to talk to you guys because usually during the week we don't talk spoilers, and so we kind of avoid the Marvel stuff right now. But yeah, this is fun. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And I hope you get your camera turned right side up again.
Yeah, I remember we used this software once before to do a video, and for some reason it didn't like my main camera. So thank goodness I have a webcam, and I'll never understand why they flipped it, but I guess we'll figure it out eventually. Maybe before the next episode, we'll do a trial run before. I don't know.
Technology gods are just laughing at you.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
they really messed with me today. They did.
Ashton, where can people find you?
oh, I'm on Twitch at Yeti Boatman, and I stream on Tuesdays and sometimes on Mondays.
Molly.
At Molly Damon on Twitter and Twitch, and I'm over here on Star Wars Explained all the time, talking about Star Wars. And then if you're a fan of the Schmodown, you can check me out on A Certain Point of View. Our main show is every Sunday night, and we're about to get into covering all the matches, which is very exciting.
And yeah, you can follow us over on Star Wars Explained, and we're on Twitter. I almost said Twitch. Twitter. Twitter. Is that what the kids
We
call
are
it?
on Twitter
At Star Wars Explained as well. That's
No
gonna be it for us.
because
Huh?
it's too long. No ED on Twitter because it was too long.
Right. And I'll be back here streaming some more Lego on Monday. But for now, we're gonna
Those
We're
Lego
gonna
streams
raid-
are awesome.
rate our buddy Eckert's Ladder. He's
When are you gonna
streaming
make-
something called Anno 1800. Make what?
Vision out of Lego.
If they make a set, then I'll do it.
Mhm.
Just gonna make them up.
Well, I don't want to accidentally. I don't want a sentient weapon in my home.
Oh yeah.
Alex, if you're a master builder, you could just build it.
I'm not very good at building Lego. I need the instructions.
I do too.
But with that, we'll say goodbye and we'll send you over to Eckert Slatter to hang out. But thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
You guys.